Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And you know what? Today was actually really eventful in the gaming world. I mean, today we had EA Play Live take place where they talked about Battlefield 2042, and there's definitely some exciting stuff with all that, and Battlefield Portal. And then we also got a surprise reveal here for a game that's been rumored for a little while, and yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about that. And then also Xbox Game Pass. There just always seems to be something happening with Xbox Game Pass, and yeah, they announced yet another game coming day one to Xbox Game Pass in the month of August. And when I started to really look at it, just the rest of July and then August is just absolutely outstanding for Xbox Game Pass. I mean, it is absolutely crazy right now, so we'll be talking about that as well. To start today off, though, we're actually going to take a look at a game that maybe some of you all missed. Now, this is something that I personally really like to do on the channel, where I take some of these smaller games that might be going a little bit overlooked but does have potential, and here we have Lost in Random. Now, this game grabbed my attention pretty much immediately for a few different reasons. One being that it looks like a very unique game. It's kind of got that Tim Burton type of feel to it in terms of the atmosphere and the world itself. But when it comes to the gameplay, there definitely seems to be some unique elements here. So you kind of have this little dice companion that you kind of go around the world with, and they explain the entire world as being random, hence, you know, the name. But, you know, you have different quests that you can take, and it's got this, like, RPG type of mechanic to it where you can collect cards, and you can just stop time and use these cards and just completely transform different battles. So, you know, in terms of gameplay, I definitely think that there's some unique and interesting ideas here, though I'm personally going to want to try this one out myself to see how it all turns out. The other thing that really stood out to me, though, is the studio this is coming from, because this is actually being handled by Zoink Games. Now, Zoink Games has made some really good games in the past, including Ghost Tale, which I do believe is one of the best PlayStation VR titles to date. The story in that game is excellent, and it touches on some sensitive subjects that I just thought was very well told. Love that game. Definitely check that out if you have PlayStation VR. And they also developed Fee, which was a pretty good 3D platformer. So this studio does have a nice little pedigree of games, and that's one of the reasons that I do look at something like Lost in Random, and I think, you know, it might turn out to be a pretty good little game. And the really good thing about this game is that it's actually going to be coming out rather soon. It will be available on the Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, and PC on September 10th, so definitely keep an eye out for Lost in Random. Next up, let's talk about the Steam Deck. This thing was announced last week, and it seems to be creating a lot of buzz right now, and rightfully so. This thing looks pretty exciting for several different reasons. One, you can bring your entire Steam library with you on the go, which is just absolutely amazing. And then there's just a lot of options when it comes to emulation. You can access things like Xbox Game Pass for PC, making this a low-key Xbox handheld. And you know what? There's just a lot of exciting things with this Steam Deck. It's just a powerful, versatile handheld at a pretty reasonable price. Yeah, so far, Valve has just done an excellent job as showing off the Steam Deck, but there has been one question that kind of surrounds this device, and it revolves around the storage. So if you do want a Steam Deck, you have three different options, which includes a $400 option, which includes 64 gigabytes of eMMC storage, and then you have a $530 option with a 256 gigabyte NVMe solid-state drive, and then for $650, you have a 512 gigabyte NVMe solid-state drive. And all that is really nice and everything, especially for the specs and price point of this thing. It's all very reasonable, but for some people, they might want to expand that storage, so there's some questions: can they actually do that? And, well, the good news here is that you can in fact upgrade the solid-state drive, which again just makes the Steam Deck even better. But, and there is a but here, reportedly swapping the solid-state drive won't necessarily be easy. Yes, you can access the solid-state drive and replace it because it's not actually soldered to the motherboard, but at the same time, it's apparently not going to be at an easily accessible spot. So that is a little bit unfortunate, but I still view this as overall good news because you can upgrade your deck even if you got that 64GB option. You're not going to be limited to just 64GB, or even if you have one of the higher end models that has 512GB. You're not going to be limited to just what they have available at launch. You will be able to make an upgrade. So I view this as overall good news. And you know what? The more I hear about this Steam Deck, the more excited I get. I really do think this device is exciting, and I am ready to try the Steam Deck myself. Let's go ahead and take a look at EA Play Live, though, and EA actually put together a nice little event here. They had quite a few interesting announcements here, and we'll kind of go over each one of these real quick. So right away, you have Grid Legends, which is that racing game coming from Codemasters, and they've done just such an excellent job with their racing games over the years. But with Grid Legends, they're doing something a little bit different here because they're bringing a story mode to Grid. Yeah, that's right. In Grid Legends, there's going to be a pretty major focus on its story, which follows a classic underdog tale where players will compete in the Grid World Series against the successful Raven West team. So right away, I think that's pretty interesting. Obviously, Codemasters does a great job with their racing games, and we'll see how Grid Legends turns out with its new story mode. And then we also got a reveal for a new character for the Apex Legends universe, which kind of reminds me a little bit of Mortal Kombat's Kung Lao. It's got a very similar hat going on here, but if you do like Apex Legends, you can definitely go check that out. But the two big announcements was definitely for Battlefield 2042, and then we also got a reveal for Dead Space. Yeah, that's right. Dead Space is in fact coming back. All those rumors that we talked about last month were absolutely true in this case, and this actually looks like a remake of the first game built from the ground up using the Frostbite engine. This new Dead Space is being handled by EA Motive, but interestingly enough, this is actually a next generation exclusive. This will not be available on the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4, but instead it will just be the Xbox Series, PlayStation 5, and then the PC. So this is going to be a true next generation game, and I know some fans have been wanting more games to do this, and well, you're going to see that here with Dead Space. Now, unfortunately, we didn't really get any kind of gameplay here, and it was just kind of a small teaser, but I mean, just the fact that Dead Space is indeed returning is really exciting on its own. Fans have been wanting this series to return for such a long time, and it really is one of the best survival horror games ever made. And honestly, I think just remaking Dead Space is probably the right direction to take. We're kind of seeing this happen with Resident Evil as well, and we're seeing the success that Capcom is having with Resident Evil, and I think we could see something similar here with Dead Space. I mean, like I said, Dead Space is absolutely one of the best horror franchises out there, and in this case, we're actually taking an Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 game and bringing it up to modern hardware, and I do expect this to look stunning. These games are already very atmospheric, but adding in things like ray tracing, 60 frames per second, and all of this next generation technology, yeah, I think this game is going to look absolutely amazing when we do eventually see it. They did also state that there's going to be no load times thanks to those solid-state drives available on the Xbox Series and PlayStation 5, so that's really great to see. And they're going to have enhanced audio as well as enhancements to limb dismemberment. Again, you do have to keep in mind that this Dead Space remake will be rebuilt from the ground up using Frostbite. Now, it does sound like that they're going to stay faithful to the original, but we could see some pretty big improvements here as well. The one question that I think a lot of people are going to have, though, is when are we actually going to get to play this game? And it sounds like it could be a little further out. They're not really giving us a release date or release window as of this moment, but it could be a couple years before we actually get to play this ourselves. Either way, definitely good times for Dead Space fans with this Dead Space remake in development. And then you also have Callisto, which is being developed by the original Dead Space creator. And that one almost seems like a spiritual successor. So really good news for Dead Space fans. Now, the one other thing that they did talk about here at this EA Play Live event was Battlefield Portal for Battlefield 2042. Now, this one is actually really interesting, and it seems kind of similar to something like Halo's Forge. Now, Halo Forge, you can kind of customize your own games and create your own maps by using existing maps, and we're seeing something similar here with Battlefield Portal. Yeah, you're going to be able to build and share custom game modes with Battlefield Portal, and it actually goes even further than that because they're doing some pretty ambitious stuff with Battlefield Portal. I think this is actually a pretty crazy addition, and yeah, let's just go and check it out. So in Battlefield Portal, you will be able to customize multiplayer mode settings, as I already kind of previously said, but you can actually mix and match elements from not just Battlefield 2042, but you can actually go back to older titles such as Battlefield 1942, you have Bad Company 2, or even Battlefield 3. So that is actually really exciting. So in Battlefield Portal, you're going to have access to these different weapons, gadgets, vehicles, soldiers, and everything from all of these past Battlefield games and just kind of mix them into whatever game mode you see fit. That is really, really cool. And then on top of that, you're going to have access to 6 classic Battlefield maps. And once again, I mean, if you're a longtime Battlefield fan, like, there's just a lot to go over here. I think the Battlefield community is really going to embrace this, and they're just going to love it. I know Halo Forge has always been really popular, and now we're seeing something similar here with Battlefield, and I just think that this is just overall very, very good news for the Battlefield community. And honestly, I can't wait to see what the Battlefield community comes up using Battlefield Portal. Like I said before, though, I do kind of look at this EA Play Live event, and yeah, I think that they did a fairly good job here. They didn't have just a ton of announcements here, but what they did announce was actually really well put together. So, you know, kudos to EA for EA Play Live today. Moving on, though, let's go ahead and take a look at Xbox Game Pass yet again, because, you know, it just seems like they always have something happening. And yeah, they did announce another day one release for the month of August, and this one is for Recompile. Now, Recompile is this interesting 3D Metroidvania style game. You can see here in the trailer that there's some platforming sections to it, you got some combat happening here, and there's plenty of puzzles along the way as well. And you know what, to just kind of top things off, I think it looks visually very pleasing as well. There's some cybernetic stuff happening here, and I just think it kind of pops off the screen. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and speak for myself, but I do love Metroidvania style games, and to see a game like this come over to Xbox Game Pass next month, which releases on August 19th, yeah, I'm going to have to try this game out myself. I hadn't really heard about this game before, but here it is. And once again, and I always say this, but this is the beauty of Xbox Game Pass. This is a game that I previously had not heard about. Now it's coming to Xbox Game Pass, and well, I'm convinced I'm going to have to try this one out for myself, and maybe you should check it out as well. After this was announced, though, I kind of started looking at next month for Xbox Game Pass, and I started to realize next month is looking really good for Xbox Game Pass. And really, I mean, if you just look at the rest of July and then August, it's absolutely insane. I mean, just for the next 8 days, you have games like Last Stop, you have The Ascent, Flight Simulator, and Omno coming to Xbox Game Pass. And then next month, not only do you have Recompile coming out on the 19th, but then you also have Hades, which has won a ton of Game of the Year awards. That is a very high quality independent game. Definitely check that game out when it releases if you haven't already played it. And then to just kind of top things off, you have 12 Minutes, which is a highly anticipated game that we've talked a lot about over the last couple years. This is a very interesting narrative-driven game with a husband and a wife stuck in a 12-minute loop. Very interested to play that one. And then the one that I'm most personally excited for, Psychonauts 2. I'm expecting Psychonauts 2 to be a flat-out amazing game. I mean, the first game was already phenomenal and it still stands the test of time. Go check that game out if you haven't already done so. But with Psychonauts 2, from everything that we've seen, from everything that we've heard, and just based off of past history with Double Fine, Yeah, there's a reason you should be excited for this particular release. Psychonauts is an insanely creative game, and I mean, even from the early previews that we've been hearing about this game, some media outlets are saying that this legitimately might be a Game of the Year candidate because that's how good it actually is. So definitely don't sleep on Psychonauts 2. But really, over the next 40 or so days for Xbox Game Pass, it's absolutely insane, and subscribers are just going to be feasting right now. And what's crazy is that we don't even really have the full lineup for the month of August, and we really just know about these 4 games in particular so far. What I will say is it's just looking like yet another really good month for Xbox Game Pass. And while we are talking about Xbox, let's go and take a look at the poll of the day, because I asked you all, what first-party Xbox game that's releasing in 2021 are you most excited for? I mean, really, for the rest of 2021, they have a nice little lineup of games here, which includes Flight Simulator, Halo Infinite, Forza Horizon 5, Psychonauts 2, and then Age of Empires 4. And unsurprisingly, Halo Infinite took that first place spot with 59%. That is rather expected, as Halo still remains insanely popular after all these years, and there's definitely a lot of excitement with Halo Infinite. I personally really like what we saw with Halo Infinite's multiplayer over at E3. I think it looks insanely good, and I'm really excited to play that one myself. Now, second place here was Forza Horizon 5 with 21%, and then you had Psychonauts 2 at 9%. I would have liked to have seen Psychonauts 2 get a little bit more recognition here, but the fact that it got third place, okay, I'm going to go ahead and accept that for the time being. But with Forza Horizon 5, yeah, this is one of the best racing franchises to ever exist, and arguably the best outside of kart racers. So I think it's just come to the point that we expect the Forza Horizon games to be great game in and game out, especially after Forza Horizon 4. And really, Forza Horizon 5 does look really good. But yeah, if you really start to look at things, the rest of the year for Xbox is pretty strong. Of course, Xbox Game Pass is good month in and month out, but then you also have several first-party games here as well, and just a good time to be an Xbox fan. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.